Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today React.js interview question is what is reconciliation in React and how does it work? Let's understand it. Reconciliation is the process React uses to identify changes between previous and new UI representation and determine what needs to be updated in the DOM. In simple words, React compares the previous UI with the new UI and finds what has changed. For example, consider a counter component. Initially, the UI displays count 0. When the user clicks the button, the state changes and the UI becomes count 1. So here React compares the previous UI with the new UI, identifies only count value as change and updates only that part of the DOM. Now let's understand how this happens step by step. How does it work? First step is a state or props change. State or props change occurs because of a user action or some change in application data. Next, second step, component re-renders. The affected component re-renders based on the updated state or props. Third, React creates a new UI representation based on the updated data. Fourth, React compares the new UI representation with the previous UI representation. Fifth, React identifies what has changed between the previous and new UI. And finally, React updates the DOM with necessary changes. Only changed parts are updated in the real DOM. Next, let's look at the counter example again. Initially, count is 0. After the state changes, count is 1. Here, React identifies that the count value has changed and updates that part of the DOM. It doesn't need to unnecessarily update the entire page. So the complete reconciliation flow is state or props change, then component re-renders, then new UI representation, then compare with previous UI, then identifies changes, and finally update the DOM. Now that we understand the reconciliation process, let's go little deeper and understand how React actually handles these changes. First, let's understand the virtual DOM and reconciliation. The virtual DOM represents the UI in memory. When the state or props change, React creates a new UI representation. Reconciliation then compares this new representation with the previous UI representation and identifies what has changed. After identifying the differences, React applies only the necessary changes to the real DOM. So in simple terms, virtual DOM represents the UI, reconciliation identifies these changes, and React updates the real DOM. Next, same versus different element type. For example, if the previous element is an h1 and the new element is also an h1, React can update the existing element. But if the previous element is an h1 and new element is div, React treats it as a different element type. So the element type plays an important role when React determines what needs to change. Next, now let's look at the real-time example with a list. Suppose initially we have 3 users, Arjun, Priya, Suresh. IDs are 101, 102, 103. Now a new user, Neha, ID is 100 is added at the beginning of the list. React needs to determine which users are the same, which user is newly added, and whether any items have removed or reordered. This is where keys are very important. Each list item gets a unique key such as the user's ID. React uses these keys to identify which items are the same, added, removed or reordered. So instead of treating every list item as completely new, React can efficiently understand the changes in the list. So if the interviewer asks what is reconciliation and how does it work, you can answer like this. Reconciliation is the process React uses to compare the previous and new UI representations, identify what has changed and update only the necessary parts of the DOM. It works by creating new UI representation, comparing it with the previous one, identifying the differences and updating the DOM efficiently. React also uses keys to efficiently handle list elements and maintain component identify across re-renders. That's all about the reconciliation and how does it work. If you found this video is helpful, please subscribe my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram for more Java full stack real time interview questions. Thank you.